All right, final question. When we posted, or really anytime we post a picture of a same sex couple, we will say, what do you see when you see here? Or this is a picture of child loss. Or I think a recent post, you said gay marriage brought this about, right? Because we're saying gay marriage was sort of the pinnacle point of that slippery slope where now we've descended down into all these technologies being used to violate the rights of children. But we posted that recently, a picture of two, gay men posing in a hospital bed with a baby doing skin to skin. They've used a surrogate. And so many comments on Facebook. Interestingly enough, that was where we got all the negative comments over and over and over. Congratulations. All I see is two loving parents. Like that was to them, that's all they see. And that's a good enough reason to discount anything else we say about it. So how do we respond to when someone's looking at a picture of same-sex parents? They say, well, it's two loving parents. That's all that matters. And that's what we see there.
Well, you could definitely begin with, what do you mean by love? What do you mean by love? The kind of classical philosophical definition of love, a la Aristotle, was willing the good of the other. So love at its heart is selfless. You're willing the good of the other. And anytime you are creating a child that is going to lose their mother or father, often through the process of destroying other children's right to life, you are not willing the good of the other. You are willing the good of yourself. So when you say, all I see is two loving parents, from that definition, neither adult is loving. Now, maybe what you're talking about is two adults that are going to be able to change diapers and have a college savings fund and make sure that they have, food to eat and a roof over the head. And maybe even have some genuine fatherly affection for the child. So is that what you mean by love? In which case, yeah, sure. The child might receive a lot of those benefits. But loving parents do not starve children of some of the things that the child needs for the sake of developmental advantages and just a loving upbringing. And that always is going to involve a male and a female parent. At Them Before Us, we often talk about how there's three staples of a child's social emotional diet, three things that they need a daily dose of every single day if they are going to grow up to thrive, to be healthy, to be developmentally balanced, to certainly have access to their biological identity. What are those three things? Mother's love, father's love, and stability. Anytime any one of those three things are missing, you've got a kid that's emotionally malnourished. You have a child that is not going to be as stable. You have a child that's going to be developmentally disadvantaged. For example, there was a TikTok that was screenshotted and sent to us of a woman in a lesbian relationship who was talking about how she was left alone with just her 11-month-old daughter. And she's like, I don't talk to my daughter and she doesn't talk yet. And is that weird that I don't? And here she is obviously talking to a phone, talking to TikTok all the time. I think she has an entire account about being, in a lesbian family. So she can talk to the internet all day, but she doesn't talk to her own kid. And the 11-month-old is not talking yet. I'm like, okay, there's a developmental disadvantage going on here. That child might have two loving parents in the sense that, college savings fund, roof over their head, a nice high chair. But when the child does not have a dad in their life, fathers actually bring a pretty critical element to language development that moms don't bring. Dads always use bigger words. Moms simplify their language right down to the child's level. So children that have a father actually talk earlier, talk better, talk sooner, and have better cognitive development. So is it loving to create a child that is always going to be deprived of either the maternal or the paternal love? I would say no. So you can always bring this back to the child, their right to life, their right to their mother and father, the complementary distinct benefits of a male and a female parent, and say, sometimes kids don't have that through tragedy, but creating that intentionally is not loving. What would you say, Jen?
Well, I agree with everything you're saying, obviously, and very well said. Not just because you pay me, but it made me wonder if we could, just have all the studies we want and get everything published that we want. What would the brain scans look like of a kid being raised traditionally, or we would say, being raised ideally, married, bio, mom and dad in the home, compared to the brain scans of children being raised by single parents, single by choice or not, but at least we can acknowledge there's many single parents that are doing the right thing and defending children, but there's some that have intentionally done this. Compared to same-sex parents, I wonder, are they missing crucial things in that development you could see in the brain?
Ah, man. If I could have all the data that I wanted, do you know how much data I would have? A lot of people are saying, well, what are the comparisons between children raised by same-sex couples created through sperm or egg donation and children raised by same-sex couples that were adopted? Where are those studies? And we're like, yes, wouldn't that be nice? Strangely, the sociologists kind of lost interest when it came to family structure after they got gay marriage. So we don't have a whole lot of studies on family structure in the past 10 years. We should return to that. The problem is they won't, because those studies always prove the superiority of the natural family. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.